Hi, welcome back to Living to the Fullest. My name is Katya, and today we're going to be making another great recipe that is perfect for these cold winter months. So, this is actually a recipe that I used to make a lot when I lived in Norway. It's one of the sort of the national dishes of that country, and it's just something that I tried and I really liked it a lot. It's traditionally made with reindeer beef, um, but I couldn't find any in the area where I live now in the United States. So I am just making it with regular beef, some steak. You could also probably make this recipe with chicken, pork, or lamb. So what the recipe is a reindeer stew, basically. And in Norwegian, it's called Finnbiff. It's also known as jegergryte, which means basically hunter's stew. And it was originally kind of created to be simple, that you could make it on a grill, even on a campfire, outside camping and whatnot. You don't need an oven for it. There's not a lot of complicated ingredients, and it's pretty straightforward. And I've been able to make it kind of under 30 minutes, so it's pretty simple. And along with the stew, you normally serve it with mashed potatoes and lingonberry jam. That is also very popular in Norway and other Scandinavian countries. So let me walk you through the ingredients, and then we'll put it together. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll make some dessert as well. So it's about 400 grams, or about a pound and a half to 2 pounds of any kind of meat of your choice. I'm choosing New York strip steaks today. They're part frozen. This will make them easier to cut, and in the recipe it's recommended that the meat is part frozen when you stir fry it. I'm going to do kind of thin slices, similar to kind of how I would cut it for either like a Asian stir fry or beef stroganoff. So just thin strips. We're gonna need some bacon. I already have some bacon bits, so I'm gonna use that instead, but you could certainly just use 3 to 4 slices of regular bacon chopped up. Fresh mushrooms, we've got those here. Some dried thyme. If you have fresh, use fresh. Water, but instead of water, I'm going to use whey. That's a leftover byproduct of me making some cottage cheese this week. So I made some homemade cottage cheese. The leftover water that's left is called whey. It still has a lot of protein in it, and it's a little salty, buttery, kind of like milk without the milk solids in it. And so I'm going to replace the water with this. You could also use stock, any beef stock or chicken stock or vegetable stock. It just gives it a little bit more flavor and more nutrition. We're going to have about 100 grams of milk, so I don't know, that's about a quarter cup of milk, and about 300 grams of sour cream. A lot of these measurements are in European measurements because it's a European recipe. And so am translating it to you into English, about 8 ounces of sour cream. And I will put the link to this recipe, and it's all in English. You just have to tweak the measurements a little bit. And then an interesting element, it uses the juniper berries, and these are popular also in Scandinavian dishes. The idea is to crush them. You can crush them with a knife, or I'm going to use a pestle and mortar. And it creates kind of like a savory, woodsy flavor, kind of similar to thyme. Some people say it's like piney. I haven't tasted this berry in a while, so I'll have to crush it and see if I remember the taste. And then it asks for 8 toast. 8 toast is brown goat cheese. It's a little bit sweet. Very hard to find here, and I couldn't find any here in any of the stores, not even the specialty stores. So they said a close replacement to that, to Norwegian brown cheese, brunost, is smoked gouda. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to slice up about a quarter cup of cheese, maybe a little less, and see if that gives it a similar flavor to the sauce, because you're essentially just browning the meat, adding vegetables, and then you're cooking it low and slow in a savory sauce. So let's get to cooking, and I've got potatoes boiling over here on the back burner. As soon as my timer goes off, then I'll mash them. If you want my full recipe for mashed potatoes, that's already on my YouTube channel. I'll link it at the end of the video. I kind of go through all the different variations you can make, but my simple go-tos are always roasted garlic powder, a lot of butter, and some heavy cream or heavy cream and milk. And I may film that too because I have all the ingredients out, so we'll see. Okay, so let's get started with just chopping up our steak. Okay, like I said, it's par frozen, and that, by the way, does make it A, easier to cut, and B, that's kind of what the recipe calls for, because you don't want the meat to dry out. That's the other tricky part. And before I start cutting, I wanted all of you to see my new chef knife. This is a life-changing kind of knife, game-changing, life-changing kind of knife. The brand is Shun, S-H-U-N. It's a little bit on the pricier side, but believe me, if you love to cook and you enjoy safety and you enjoy not pushing so hard on your knives, even ones that have been professionally sharpened, I recommend buying something like this or a similar material, because it slices everything like it's butter. I mean, even cutting carrots, like almost no effort. Super sharp. You do have to be careful with it. If you have kids, leave it kind of far away, the far edge of your counter, or even put it in like in a holder. But oh my gosh, this was definitely a game changer. And another thing I pulled out of my, out of my garage and my storage unit, not storage unit, but in my storage shelves in the garage, is my old cutting board. This one is bigger, and in my older videos you see this cutting board, and I've bought like 3 of these throughout the years. I bought them from Bed Bath & Beyond, and now that store I believe is closed, or maybe they only have an online option now, but I have 3 of these cutting boards, and they're great. And don't throw away your old cutting boards. What you can do is save them for crafting projects where you might have to cut something, gift wrapping. Just put a big cutting board on the floor. It makes it so much easier than trying to clear off like a huge space on your table or something. So I love these, and they're just so useful. I even use them as like a mini ironing board. You put one of these here, put a couple of towels, and then you're not burning your tabletop and not having to go drag down a whole giant ironing board if you're only like me, ironing maybe a shirt, one tiny little shirt for a toddler with a name tag. You know, this makes it quicker. So I just love reusing things for different things and not have everything just have one use. So I have 2 of these saved, and they can also be used in the kitchen if you have multiple people helping you cook. If you are doing batch cooking and you've got a family member over, or a friend, or your girlfriend, your mom, whoever, give them a cutting board and put them to work. And it's just a great quick little setup. So I save these cutting boards, so when I do batch cooking and I have some extra hands, people that want to help me, even my son or whatever, even as a toddler, he can sit around and chop and all that. So I'm gonna cut meat on this, but I will sanitize this after I'm done cooking. So we're gonna cut it very thinly, and I'm also gonna probably use a plastic. No, these are already actually pre-chopped, so I don't really need to do much other than chop my onions. And I have a different cutting board for onions. So, and another thing I've started doing recently is when I ever give this a deep wash, with soap and vinegar and all that, I bought some food grade mineral oil, and that really helps restore even a cutting board like this that I've had now for, for over 4 years, back to that nice bright wood color. This is a light wood, but still, it takes the mineral oil, not only takes away the scratches, it also sanitizes it, makes it a little bit more bacteria proof, which is nice. And man, putting mineral oil on a dark cutting board, or any of your dark wooden utensils like spurtles and spatulas, it really brings them back to life. So I would recommend it, and they're not expensive. Anything from like $7 to $10 on Amazon for a bottle of mineral oil, and it's really a great product to restore your old cutting boards or any wood pieces you might have around the kitchen or your house. So it's something I've heard about, but I never actually went out and bought one and did it, and it makes a big difference. It's like bringing your cutting boards back to life. Now, you don't have to make this super beef heavy. You could just do 1 steak if that's what you wanted to do. I'm going to do the full 2, but you could just do this much and maybe double the mushrooms. You can definitely make your own variation, and if you don't like mushrooms, put in another vegetable. I mean, really, it can be made with any other kind of, I would say, thick vegetable, like maybe not kale, but something like bell peppers, zucchini, eggplant. These are the ingredients of traditional Norwegian recipe because these are very common and easy to find in, especially in the cold months in Norway. And you know, right now we're going through a winter storm here in Tennessee and most of the south of the United States. This is nowhere near even an average winter in northern Norway. So, and believe me, a nice hot stew is exactly what you're craving through 3 months into the winter, which at the end of January, especially northern Norway, which is it's on the Arctic Circle, you don't have sunlight for about 3 months straight. So sun never comes up, so you're in total darkness. So definitely important to keep your spirits up any way you can, cooking good food, savory food. Okay, I think actually I'm only going to chop this much because it's really, this portion is going to be for me and then for leftovers. So I have not made this recipe in the United States before, so I don't even know how much my family will like it, but my son, he might try it. I don't know. But we usually don't give him chewy beef like this. So he'll have some mashed potatoes, some mushrooms. Definitely likes bacon. He definitely likes cheese. So anything like in a cheesy sauce, he'll eat, especially mac and cheese. But again, I try to, expose him to new flavors. Even if he takes a bite, maybe next time he takes 2 bites, 3 bites. And, in doing that, he really has tried a lot of food that even surprises me. I mean, he can eat fresh dill just without even putting it on anything. He can eat fresh cilantro just pulling it right out of my planting pot. For me, it's important to expose him to different flavors in the kitchen, for him to see kind of how food grows, but also how food is made and cooked. So that's really our fun part. And this Christmas, I also got him like a little toddler set of knives and cutting boards and little shape cutters, and the cutters can do like a heart and a star, and he can cut anything out in those shapes. Like sometimes I give him a slice of turkey, a slice of cheese, a slice of bread, or a cracker, and he just practices cutting and making shapes, and then he actually eats it, and then he enjoys the food. So I know a lot of moms do that just to get your kids to eat something healthy. So yeah, make them part of the cooking process, and they're more likely to eat what you're putting on the plate. All right, my potatoes are boiling. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, and then I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then continue with slicing up the cheese. All right, I've got to chop up this onion. Mushrooms are already sliced up, and then I got to shred some cheese. So for my cheese, I'm getting my Rachel Ray cheese grater again. This is the best one I found. I do have a bigger one for bigger grate, like for carrots and things like that. But this one really is great for smaller cheeses, or if you're only doing like a slice or two, because this really small kind of shred makes it melt way better into any kind of sauce, like what I'm doing here, sauce or stew or pizza for sure. A hard cheese is really great to grate on something like this, because big chunks of hard cheese like Parmesan, those are really hard to melt if you want them to melt into your cheese topping or whatever topping you're using. This is kind of like a in between. It's like a medium hardness. It's not super hard, but it's not super soft like a fresh mozzarella. So I'm just trying to get about 3 slices worth into here, and I'm gonna actually taste it. We don't really buy smoked gouda that much. It's really good. Yeah. Okay, I think for me, that's about 3 slices. Yep. Maybe a little more. Maybe a little more. Okay. Okay, that's good. And I always forget this grater you can go up and down, and that makes the grating actually go a little faster. So great product. Okay, so now I'm going to chop up my onion on a clean cutting board. here onion is optional. You can leave it out, or you can, because I've found other recipes of this Finnbiff that don't use onion at all. Or you could do onion powder if you just want it to be a subtle flavor. And then when you serve it, you can top it with fresh herbs. In this recipe, they topped it with parsley, and I don't have any parsley, but I am starting some seedlings, so I will be ready to grow parsley this year in my garden. And I want to grow a lot of it because the heat of last summer made a lot of them just dry out, so I didn't really get a very good turnout. I had maybe in the whole of summer I grew maybe one bunch, but I want to grow enough to where I can dry it and store it in jars, freeze some of it fresh, and then obviously eat it fresh as the summer months go by. So I'm just hoping it'll turn out. This year I'm going to definitely focus a lot more on going out there every day, watering them. If they're getting too hot, put them in a shady spot. But generally parsley and dill can grow both in shade and sun, so you just have to kind of tweak it as the months go by. But I'm definitely pushing forward with a lot of gardening projects this year, and I will probably show you some seedlings that I have already started at the end of the video, just so you guys can see. And then I plan to film some gardening videos as well, but right now there's snow on the ground. I don't want to be outside. There's not much to plant other than a few tulip bulbs that I stuck in the ground now, because tulips take a while to get adjusted to the soil and to bloom. So even though I planted them now in January, I probably won't see blooms until May or June, maybe not even till July. But that's okay. I just love the garden beds sometimes surprising me, and I plant stuff in garden beds that I have in the backyard, and then in the 2 large planters outside of my front door. So, and if you guys haven't seen any of my gardening videos, you can just go to my video library. I have a special playlist, gardening, and in there I have all the different things that I've planted over the different years since we've been in this house. Okay, so we got our cheese, mushrooms, onions. What I'm going to do is going to go to the stove, heat up my bacon and mushrooms together, and as we're combining everything, it's all going to go then into a larger pot to simmer and stew. So, and I think I'm going to just use the same pan for it to stew in. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pot. So I'm just going to take them off and put them on the side in a bowl, and then combine everything together towards the end. So I'll move the camera over to the stove so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna get it on medium. This pan gets really hot really fast, so I'm leaving it literally on a medium right now. And it doesn't call for any extra butter, but I think I will add a little bit of extra butter as this bacon renders down, because again, it's bacon bits and not the full bacon. And then while that heats up, I'm going to, let's just do a scoop of that. I'm going to show you how I use my pestle mortar. It asks for dry thyme, and I'm going to just crush the thyme in with this. And really, whenever you have dry spices, you should be using a pestle mortar or your knife to crush them, because that releases essential or kind of hibernating oils in your spices. And once you do that, it just brings out the flavor. And then if on top of it, if you roast the spices too, it just brings out the flavor more and makes them a little bit more nuttier. Same reason that you would toast nuts as well. It gives them a slightly different flavor. Okay, not too many. So again, juniper berries. I couldn't find any of my regular grocery stores, but I got these on Amazon. So if you find them, try them. Okay, I'm gonna let this get warm through. And once this gets a little bit more oily and buttery, I will add in the mushrooms and the onions. Okay, so now it's getting melty. The butter's melting. It's getting crispy. At this point, I raised the temperature a little bit more. And I read the recipe, and it did say add butter. So feel free to add butter to your bacon, and then onions and mushrooms. And if you're watching closely, this recipe is actually very similar in some of the base ingredients as beef bourguignon, which I recorded on this channel as well. because look at the ingredients. Bacon, that's in beef bourguignon, so are onions and mushrooms. They're also stewed. And in here, instead of red wine, we're putting in the brown cheese. We're putting in, or in this case, our smoked gouda, putting in sour cream, and putting in a little bit of milk and broth. So very similar, and the beef also will get cooked slow. So I think because I love beef bourguignon so much, it's no surprise to me that I like this dish too, because something with the bacon and the mushrooms and the beef is just so good. Same thing with beef stroganoff, also beef, mushrooms, and sour cream, really delicious. That one, I add white wine to it. So let me know if you want me to do a full recipe on beef stroganoff. I sometimes make it with like small, like mini meatballs. I've made it with chicken. I made it with beef strips and even ground beef. The ground beef version is probably the most kid friendly. So if you want me to film that recipe from beginning to end, let me know, and I can certainly do that. And we're gonna also, oh, where's my salt and pepper? Important that you season salt and pepper at each layer. So I consider this the vegetable layer, right? So you want pepper. I like fresh ground pepper right out of my electric mill, and salt, and then we'll do the same thing with beef. This ensures that not only is your food evenly flavored, you're not just spraying the top when you're done, you're also ensuring that the salt gets absorbed into each layer as it cooks, versus you adding it at the very end. There's some recipes where you would add salt at the end, maybe if you're doing a salad dressing or some kind of a fresh vegetable, you could do a salt at the end so that it doesn't pull out as much water. But for a stew, you definitely want to season in layers. Now for me, I don't need it to be extra brown or extra crispy. This is cooked well enough for me, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer this to a bowl that's just waiting here. But you also could have just put it in a pot. I just don't want to get another dish dirty. And my potatoes, by the way, oh my gosh, this smells so good. Finished cooking. I'm just kind of leaving them a little bit of butter, and I'll mash them shortly. Oh, another tip too is you can leave them. This I learned from the Pioneer Woman. Leave your mashed potatoes on the burner that you cooked them on, and as you're mashing them, it helps evaporate some of that water so that your potatoes aren't as watery and are just more starchy and more flavorful and fluffy. Okay, I'm leaving it kind of still at a high, adding more butter. And getting our beef together. You can use tongs, but you know, I grew up with a Ukrainian grandmother teaching me how to cook, and we kind of just flip things with our hands. We just weren't scared of it. I know a lot of other grandmothers and a lot of other cultures do the same thing. So if you're not scared of the heat, throw them in with your hands. I think you have more precision. But to flip them over again, I will use tongs. When I make my Ukrainian pancakes, whether it's blini or oladyi, usually a lot of times I just flip with the corner with my fingertips. You just have to do it really fast. You have to kind of almost be fearless in the kitchen if you really want to get creative and you want to get speedy. Okay. So now it's giving it a nice sizzle. I'm gonna rinse my hands. Now, again, same thing. Season that layer. And the recipe also says don't overcrowd your meat, otherwise it'll steam and not brown. So for this much meat, probably 2 batches, maybe 2.5. And what's nice is because the bacon fat was already in here, it's not only giving it that bacon flavor, it's also giving it a color of that bacon grease. They're kind of melding together. So, and I think another reason this is a popular dish in Norway is because if you are out hunting, or you just happen to have reindeer meat on hand, usually at your cabin, um, then this is just so easy to put together, either on an outdoor grill, just a makeshift fire pit, or one that maybe you already have at your cabin. And it's just thin slices of beef, some chopped up mushrooms, potatoes, your basic staple items, nothing fancy, and yet so delicious. That's about how much I want to brown. That's it. And then I'm grabbing them and putting them back in with the rest of the other ingredients we already fried up. Another nice thing with this recipe is that you can prep a lot of ingredients beforehand, and for me, like, you can buy sliced mushrooms. That saves you a little bit of time, or just slice them the day ahead. And when they're already ready in the fridge, I could have even sliced this. I could have marinated it also in these spices with a little bit of oil. That would have been good too. Not necessary, but the point is, if you're trying to make a quick dinner, look how quickly this cooks, because it's really thin. And actually, some stores already sell almost shaved beef or really thin beef like this. Almost like a beef that you would use in a pho. Probably an Asian market would have that too, so you can try there. I think I'll get them all in here. And see, I'm just throwing them in like a deck of cards. And then when you get home, it's almost like you already have your own little HelloFresh box ready to go, because you did all the prep. I'm gonna rinse my hands again. And by the way, another new thing I started doing is ordering 2 meals a week from HelloFresh, because I do have a very busy job. I'm a busy mom. I have a busy life. So that helps me out. And what I like to do is I like to order ones that are recipes that I've never tried before, because you get to keep the recipe card. So it's like a free recipe. And you're, in that sense, testing it out, both in cooking it, and both if, like, your family, your kids like it or not, right? Or if you like it. So it's a really nice convenience. And it's actually easy to double up. And what I also do is, whatever meal it is, if, let's say, we're eating, like, there's 5 of us instead of maybe 2, if there's more people for that dinner, you could easily double it up. And I usually intentionally pick meals that I know I already have the rest of the ingredients for, to double it up. So if it's like some kind of stir fry, maybe with a different sauce that I would never have made, but it's stir fry with rice, I know I'll have a certain portion from HelloFresh for 2 people, but I can double or triple it with white rice that I already have in my pantry. So that makes it go a lot quicker. Or maybe like some kind of shrimp recipe if I know I have extra shrimp in the freezer. So it's really easy to double it up. Or just add a similar vegetable to double up the vegetables. With HelloFresh, there's a lot of recipes they call it for zucchini, kale, broccoli. So if it's broccoli, then add zucchini to it. Or I can think of one meal that was like a Tuscan pasta, and it only called for spinach in it. But I happened to have some zucchini and some broccoli, and I chopped it up small pieces so that you could, like, really get it into the pasta and the sauce, and that was really delicious. And that just doing that already doubled or tripled the volume of the portion of the pasta. So if you guys want me to do a review of a next box that I have coming up, I can do that. Let me know. Or let me know if you've tried HelloFresh and what you think about it. Is it worth it? Is it convenient? Is it not worth the money? Let me know what you think. Or are you using a different box delivery service? All right, getting these all out of here. And now is where, to this, we're adding our liquids. So I'm going to start with, the recipe calls for water, but like I said, I'm putting in whey. I just store them in just these jars. These jars are so easy to find. I get mine at, I think I bought these at Target, like $15 for like 12 jars, and they're so versatile. You can put so much stuff in these dry herbs. You can make your own kefir, your own yogurt, your own cottage cheese. You can freeze things in them, and you can also, make dressing, shake them, and different sizes. Obviously, this is the 32 ounce, but I also like the 12 ounce and 8 ounce ones too, for small things like sauces, jams, whatever. So that's just water or broth, in my case, whey. And then we're going to add sour cream, all of this. So about half of a 16 ounce container. Now, if you like a smoky flavor, or you like a punch of alcohol flavor, you could probably drizzle in a little whiskey in here, a little cognac, or that'd be good too. Or white wine. Usually with beef, white wine goes really well, and sour cream. I think the reason is because white wine, of course, dry white wine, so not sweet, kind of complements also the tanginess of the sour cream. So if a sauce calls for sour cream or creme fraiche, I think if you wanted to add a little white wine to it, it would be just delicious. It would just take it to the next level. So here I'm stirring it. Now this is getting clumpy, so what I like to do, this is why I like to use stainless steel pans, is you can use steel appliances on them. So I'm going to do that with a whisk, because we need it to get melty enough to add in our cheese. So I'm just going to whisk. And also, notice how it's picking up all that delicious bacon flavor. Same thing as making a gravy. If you were, if you had roasted a turkey or chicken, don't throw away those brown bits. This is what I learned. And by the way, I learned how to make delicious gravy. Where? In Norway. Because over there, if you don't have good gravy, your meat ain't gonna taste like much. So, and I don't know if that's just because I had a lot of time on my hands before I had my son. I didn't have a child. I just worked a full-time job. I had a lot of time on my hands, so it gave me a lot of time to experiment with cooking. And one of the things I learned is how to make really good gravy. And I mean, I've been back in the States now 8 years, but I moved back in 2017, so it's been actually almost 9 years. But I lived there for 7 years. So over 7 years, you learn a lot of things. And I'm grateful that I learned how to cook. And YouTube cooking channels, like by actual YouTubers and not celebrities, was not as popular. There were maybe only 2 channels I followed regularly, and one of them was Laura in the Kitchen. And my biggest, shout out to Laura, my biggest inspiration were her videos. And I said to myself, hey, if I ever make it back to the United States and I can do videos in English and have an American audience, that would be my dream. So here I am living my dream. So I basically had 7 years of recipe developing, testing, and increasing and improving my own cooking skills. So I'm very grateful to that. And hopefully this inspires anybody else who's either intimidated to cook or intimidated to start a YouTube channel or anything on social media. Don't be scared. Just do it. You can even start as something as simple as a 15-second TikTok video, because sometimes an hour video can seem really intimidating, especially to edit it. Again, I'm a talkative person, so I can talk anybody's ear off. I can talk for 3 hours straight if I have to. I have to edit myself out sometimes. But if you're not, and you just want to talk about food, you don't want to make a 1-hour video, start with shorts. I mean, there's just so many different formats now, so many different ways to do it. If you don't want to be on camera at all, then start a blog. Blogs are great too, because you get the recipe, get the pretty pictures, and you're ready to go. So there's just so many formats. Okay, now that it's browning up nicely like that, at this point we'll add in our delicious crushed thyme and crushed juniper berries. And many of you may have never even heard of juniper berries. So again, maybe you just learned something new. Piney taste. If you like woodsy flavors like thyme and rosemary in your food, you're gonna like juniper berries. So try this new ingredient. You never know what you might like until you actually taste it. Not just see it or smell it, but taste it, and taste it in the recipe as it's meant to be with all the other ingredients. Because even me saying, oh, reindeer stew might sound so off-putting, but it's really delicious. Reindeer meat is really delicious. And if you've ever tried a filet mignon of reindeer meat, that tastes like nothing like cow meat ever. It'll take you to another planet. I did try it at a restaurant at like a corporate party one time. It was like a pretty, I guess I would say, not a Michelin star restaurant, but close. In the very tippy top of Norway, right by the Russian border, actually. You could even see Russian border patrol across the lake from that restaurant, which is kind of cool. I was like, oh, maybe I can sneak in. No, sneak in and go home through Russia back to Ukraine. No, but they cooked Emmo's delicious reindeer filet mignon, and it was divine with just like this little bit of a red sauce on it. But like I said, if you don't like reindeer stew or reindeer meat, either because you haven't tried it or you have tried it and you don't like it, or if it's too gamey to you, try it with beef, try it with chicken. Pork and lamb would also be really delicious in this. You're kind of all in this stew, you're almost eating it more for the sauce, the gravy, than the actual meat. So the meat can be anything that you prefer. And then I'm just gonna let it cook for about another 15-10 minutes on low, because we really want to get all of this to get really, really soft. All right, I'm gonna clean up and take you back over there to make mashed potatoes. Okay, so for mashed potatoes, I drained them, left a little bit of water at the bottom. And what I like to do, and by the way, we're gonna put some whey in here too. It actually does last in the fridge 2 to 3 weeks if you cover it in an airtight container like this jar. But if you don't want to do that, or you don't have it, half and half, or part heavy cream, part milk, depending on how many potatoes you have in there. You just basically want them a little bit less dry. So you're not adding like a cup of, this is about 6 potatoes, okay? You're not adding a whole cup of milk. You're gonna have to eyeball it. I would start with, if you're really not sure where to start with 1 tablespoon, which is like 1 slurp of this, 1 of milk, 1 of heavy cream. Mix and see what the texture is. Mashed potatoes should be soft and moist, but not runny. It's because it's not a sauce. It's not a gravy. But they shouldn't be overly dry, because then they're also going to taste very, very not salty, almost like starchy and bitter, if that makes sense. You also need to add a lot of salt. I also boil them in salted water. I add salted butter. They're cooked in salted water, like I said, and on top of that, I also add a little bit more salt. So this, to me, is still too chunky, but I'm going to do a flavor check. Always just taste as you go. Add more of whatever's missing. Well, obviously we're missing some garlic. Oh, this is a new jar I just got. Again, I recommend roasted garlic because it also completely different flavor. So can they make these tops a little easier to like take off? Like, why isn't there ever a pull or a thing? And even when there's a pull, it doesn't work. It's like you have greasy hands, you can't get to it. I have some left over. Let's pop it in here. Okay. And we also haven't added black pepper yet. So let's do that. But please, can somebody invent a better system than these dots? Who uses them anymore? And also better jars and easier to open jars. I mean, is it really that hard in this day and age? Am I shooting for the moon? As the Devil Wears Prada says. The Devil's Wear Prada line by Meryl Streep. Am I shooting for the moon? Maybe I said that wrong. By the way, the other quote that I said was in the movie The Women, that music is for people that can't be left alone with their own thoughts. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Or if it does, where is it in the movie? I watched the whole movie and couldn't find it. It's actually in the movie Bride Wars. Also with Anne Hathaway, just like Devil Wears Prada. And she's the one that says the line. I love that because her character is a teacher, so of course she's going to say something like that. But I That line just makes me laugh so much. Okay. It's about this consistency, and now I'm going to mix it with my metal mixer. I mean, with the metal ends. I have ones with the rubber ends. I don't like them. I just don't think they mash the same. I don't think they mash the potatoes the same way. I have to hear that grinding. If I don't hear that grinding, I don't think it's being mashed. Now, I used to have a mixer, well, back in Florida, or it wasn't even my mixer, it was my parents' mixer. It had a turbo button. This one doesn't. What happened to the turbo button, y'all? KitchenAid, and it doesn't have a turbo button. It just has escape or press out button. And then also I've seen that KitchenAid now has a cordless one, which I would love, because the thing I hate about pulling this thing out is the cord. You know, untying it, finding an outlet, blah, 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 moving it. It's so inconvenient. See, like this when you're mixing. I hate it. Stand mixer I like, but it takes up a lot of counter space. So let me know if y'all like the cordless KitchenAid mixer. Is it worth it? Is it worth the money? I think it's about $150 to $200. Is it worth the hype, or is it just basically this mixer just without a cord? Does it have a turbo setting? Let me know. So anyway, this is the potatoes. This is what they're looking like. I'm going to give this a good mix. Excellent. These are excellent. Okay, the stew is off the stove. It's gotten creamy. The meat is really soft. The mushrooms are soft. That's the important part. You don't want them to be gummy. And let's do a flavor test. Just like I started doing on my channel, apparently. Before, I never actually tried them, because a lot of times they're recipes I've already eaten before, so I know they're good. And I would just go to like a final shot of, oh, well, here's what it looks like, or here's what it looks like plated up. But this, it's fun to actually eat new recipes on camera, or ones that I haven't eaten or made in a really long time. And like I said, I haven't made this dish or ate it probably in over close to 9 years, so it smells really delicious. Yeah. It's hard to even describe what the flavor is. Sorry, I'm still chewing. But so hearty. And the thyme with the juniper, oh my gosh. It almost makes you feel like you're eating Christmas, but in a good way. Meat is really, really tender. I love that. I love nice tender meat and not have to like chew on it, grind your teeth on it. And look, it took us less than maybe 20 minutes after chopping everything up, once everything's ready to go, to actually fry it up and let it simmer in a stew, because the thinnest will be takes just only 20 minutes total. So this is an easy, quick dinner. I hope you guys try it. This is a perfect winter recipe in my mind, or any outdoor recipe for camping, for traveling, for vacationing. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you tried this recipe. Again, it's called Norwegian reindeer stew. I made it with regular beef. Finnbiff is the Norwegian name for it. I hope you try it. The recipe will be up below the video. And thank you so much for watching.